Never Alone, the game people solely get because of the cute fox that's in it and definitely not because of the tiny Inuit girl, is an indie puzzle platformer available on Steam. When we take a look at the game's Steam store page, we can see that overall it has very positive reviews and that it also has won plenty of awards in the past. Since we all know that 90% of the reviews on Steam are terrible though and belong into the trash, we should probably take another look at whether you should play Never Alone. The game tells the story of Neela, a young Inuit girl who leaves her village to find the source of a strong blizzard. She gets lost and a small white fox comes to her aid and guides her home. When she gets back to her village, everything is in flames and there is a man who attacks her. She flees and sets off on a long journey. On your travels you come across many puzzles. You solve them by switching between Neela and the fox. They both have different abilities that come in handy one way or another. The fox can jump pretty far and get the spirits to help you, for example, but Neela can pull boxes and shoot stuff with her boa. Alternatively to switching between the two characters, you can play the game in local co-op mode. Of course, you need a friend for that. Unlike me. The game's visuals aren't anything special, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy them. Paired with the ambient sounds and the soundtrack, the game managed to build an atmosphere that really pulled me in. The story was kind of interesting overall, though at some points it did feel like just a bunch of Inuit folklore stitched together to teach us as much about their culture as possible. I mean, I bought this game to play as an Inuit, not learn about them. Jeez. All kidding aside, the game does offer a lot of information on the Inuit culture. As you play, you'll unlock so-called insights either by just progressing the story or through collectibles. Basically, they are short videos on different topics that you are currently encountering in the game. This can be Inuit folklore, stuff about the habitat the Inuit people live in, or just stories about life as an Inuit in general. In total, there's over 30 minutes of interviews, so plenty of footage for you to watch. The game can be pretty challenging sometimes. I had to try certain parts of the game over and over again because I kept dying, though most of the time it was the controls or the AI that were making the platforming and puzzles harder than they actually were. A couple of times, for example, you have to use Neela's boa to shoot stuff that's in your way. Aiming the boa with the controller is really awkward though, since you first have to tilt the analog stick back and then in the direction you want to shoot. Sounds simple enough, but in practice doesn't really work that well. The controls in general aren't abysmal, but they are quite wonky from time to time, to the point of literally giving me a headache because Neela refuses to jump on a platform she should have no problems reaching. Getting stuck and the camera not properly following you at certain points is not a rarity either, sadly. In addition to all that, the AI can be pretty dumb sometimes and make the game more frustrating than it has to be. When I was playing as Neela, for example, the fox would sometimes refuse to jump at certain times and just die, causing me to have to do the last part of the level over again. The AI also sometimes seems to lose track of where it actually wants to go, which, of course, can be funny, but also very frustrating. Hey, buddy. You okay there? Do you need some help? Should I call someone? Okay, you do you, my friend. The whole game is narrated by an Inuit elder with a really soothing voice. I really enjoyed listening to everything he had to say, even though I did have to read the subtitles since I obviously don't speak his language. Anime has prepared me well though, so that wasn't really a problem. Thank you, Kissexis. Something I noticed bothers some people online is that the gameplay changes quite a bit about 1/3 into the game. Even though it did catch me by surprise, I gotta say that I enjoyed the change and it made the gameplay more interesting again. Of course, that's just my opinion though. In conclusion, Never Alone is a really interesting game. I learned a lot about the Inuit people that I probably never would have otherwise. The gameplay switches up quite a bit, ranging from platforming sections to puzzles and even what I'd consider boss fights. Sadly, the controls and camera of the game are quite wonky, making it all feel very unpolished. Add the dreadful AI to all of that and you got yourself a game that could have been very good but ended up being extremely mediocre. I can definitely see this game being a lot better in local co-op mode since you don't have to deal with the shitty AI, but not everyone is fortunate enough to have friends to come over and play video games with. With this Should You Play series, I mainly try to stick to games that I can either give a solid yes or no as to whether you should play them or not. Never Alone makes this kind of hard for me though. On one hand, I definitely enjoyed the time I spent playing and I can't say I regret picking up the game. On the other hand though, I probably could have enjoyed myself a lot more by playing some other random indie game. I mean, it's not like there aren't enough to choose from out there. Probably would have been less frustrating, that's for sure. If you can look past most of the problems Never Alone has, you got yourself a really informative and cute game that will definitely keep you busy for a couple of hours, and I absolutely recommend it to you. Not everyone can overlook flaws like the ones Never Alone has, though. The fact that there are a lot of better games out there that you could be playing, and since I don't really see myself playing through the game ever again, and can't even be bothered to check out the DLC, I can't really recommend it to you guys. So, to sum it all up, should you play Never Alone?